gave you the equation and you told me the center and the radius and then you graphed the circle. Today we are actually doing the reverse of that. So cell phones need to be put away. You don't need a cell phone to graph a circle at all. And whenever we are looking at these equations, we are still going to use that same formula as yesterday. And we are just going to plug in the center and the radius into the equation. There we go. All right, so for the equation, what did we put in the parentheses? What was the first thing in parentheses? There was an x, but what was with that? Not x minus y.
Golden Arrow Singers and Senior Student Council, please report to the Commons.
Oh, was that close to least?
X squared. Squared. All right, so there was x, and then there was something squared, but there was something in the parentheses.
Y squared.
Nope, x had its own and y had its own.
R.
The r is at the very end, but is it r, or is there something with it?
X minus h and y minus k.
Hey, there we go.
No.
All right, so we are still using this same formula. I would recommend writing that somewhere, because obviously you didn't remember it from yesterday, so write that.
I got it in my notes.
All right, Donovan's got it in his notes. That's why we take notes, so you can go back and look at stuff. So we got x minus h squared, and then plus y minus k squared. So those numbers that we're subtracting from x and y adjust where the center is. So if there's nothing being added or subtracted, the center is 0, 0. All right, so if we're not adding or subtracting anything from x or y, those coordinates are 0. And so if we look at this first example, we are simply going to take these numbers and plug them in. But remember yesterday, if we saw a positive in the equation, what did we do for the graph?
Flip it.
You flipped it. So whatever we see here for our center, remember, change signs if we need to. So if we look at this, are we adding or subtracting anything to x? What about y?
No.
Teachers, please excuse the interruption. Can I please see Addison Arnold, Matthew Hensler, Courtney Ridgway, and Annalie Condon? Please come to the office.
All right, so on this one, we aren't subtracting anything from x, so that's just x squared. Not subtracting anything from y, so that becomes y squared. Now, on this one, it tells us our radius is 8, so what is 8 squared?
4. Or no.
8 times
64.
64. And this would be our equation.
That's the answer.
Yeah, that's it. That's the equation for that circle. Now, if we wanted to graph that, we would put a center point at 0, 0, and then we would go out 8 each way, and it'd be a pretty big circle. Now, you guys tell me, what do you think the equation for number 2 would be?
X squared plus
X
y
squared
squared.
x squared plus y squared equals 16.
X squared plus y squared. Because 0, 0 means we don't add or subtract anything. I really need to work on my shadows. All right, what's 4 squared?
16.
There we go. All right, so that's what they're looking like whenever they're the center 0, 0. What do you think?
Pretty easy.
All right, that's gonna bug me that I didn't do that before. All right, any questions on 1 or 2? I say let's go down. All right, Alright, so let's take a look at number 3 and 4. Alright, this time we actually have values for the center. So always remember whatever the sign is for the coordinates, it will be the opposite in the equation. So which number affects x? The negative 10 or the negative 11? Alright, this one is the x coordinate and that one's the y coordinate, correct? So when I see a negative 10 for my center, what am I going to put in the equation? A positive 10. And then don't forget to square it. Because whenever you square it, that takes care of the positive part of the circle and the negative part of the circle. We have to have both pieces. Alright, now for my y parentheses, it says minus 11 for the center, so what am I going to put in the equation?
Positive 11.
Positive 11. And my radius is 8.
64.
64. Still so far so good?
Yeah.
Alright, now are you guys, what do you think I would type for number 4? What would go in the parentheses?
-7.
Just negative 7 like that?
No, x
X.
minus 7.
Okay, x minus 7,
Squared.
and then we gotta square it. I don't know how to square on this. Or actually I can put a 2, I'll square it in a second.
Thanks, man.
Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Alright, so we've got x minus 7 squared. Now what would go in the second parentheses?
Y minus 12 squared.
Y minus 12 squared, and all equals, and Donovan says equals 25. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
And I'll make my exponents look nice. Oh, thank you. So whatever we see for the center coordinates, always remember to change the sign when you plug it into the equation. And the same thing as yesterday. Whenever you're looking at the equation, you graph the opposite. If you're given information about the graph, you do the opposite when you put it into the equation. You guys think you can try a couple of these?
Yeah.
Alright, I want you guys to try 5 and 6. We will go over them before we move on to the second half. Alright, what do you guys think about number 5? What goes in the first parentheses? X minus 12. Did you remember to square it? Alright, what goes in the second parentheses?
Y plus 5 squared
Uh-huh.
equals 9.
What do you guys think? Agree or disagree with that? Any questions? Alright, now for the last one, we see a positive 3. So for your first parenthesis, did you guys have x minus 3 squared? And then y plus 10 squared, because if be a negative, we plug it in as a positive. Now what does this equal? What's 25? Alright, what do you guys think about part 1?
Easy.
Alright, now part 2, instead of just telling you what the center and the radius is, you have to look at the circle and tell me what they are. So let's go ahead and go on to the next page and let's look at numbers 7 and 8. So before we write the equation, we probably want to figure out what the center and the radius are. So we want to write the coordinates for the center first. So we'll figure that out and we'll figure out what the radius is and then we'll write our equation. So for the center, you want to find that middle point here. What are the coordinates at that point?
-3, -4.
-3, -4? I think that sounds good. All right, and then for the radius, we're measuring from the center to the outside. So how many units is that?
3.
3. So our radius, we're measuring from the center to the outside edge of the circle. And then once we have our center and radius, we're ready to plug it in. So my first parentheses, is it x plus 3 or x minus 3 for my equation? X plus 3. X plus 3 squared. What about the second one?
Y plus 4.
Y plus 4 squared equals 9. Very good. Alright, now what about number 8? You guys can zoom in.
Pardon this interruption. Spring Drama, please report to the Commons.
I'm sure the virtual students are going to love this video with all of the interruptions from Picture Day today. Alright, let's look at the next one. Where are the coordinates of the center?
-3, -2.
Oh, that is a -2, isn't it? Looks a little fuzzy up here. So on this one, my center is -3, -2. And what's the radius?
6.
Oh, is it?
3.
Alright, so I get it when you count on that one. It's 6 marks over. But if you look at this, if this is -3 and that's -2, isn't that a half? So make sure that you're counting, it goes from -3 to 0. So this is actually 1. From -3 to -2 is 1. From -2 to 1 is another 1. And then from -1 to 0 makes 3. So always make sure that you are counting by whole numbers and not fractions. Always look at your scale. On that one, it is 3. So just make sure you look at your scale. Sometimes they count by 2s. So always just pay attention to your scale. So for my equation, once I have that set up, we can have an x plus 3 squared, a y plus 2 squared, and what's it going to equal this time? Equals 9. Alright, so on those, make sure that when you are counting your radius, always just pay attention to that scale to make sure it's not counting by halves or 2s or something like that. In this one, it was counting by halves, so if you think about this, what's half of 6? It's 3. Alright, so I've got 2 more for you. I want you guys to try these by yourself, and then we will go over them. So we're going to do your center. Radius. me, Sage, what'd you get for your center on number 9?
Or -4.3.
Do you guys agree with -4.3?
Yep.
All right, Kobe, what'd you get for the radius on that one?
Number 10 or number?
Number 9.
-4, -3. Or -4, 3.
Okay, that's the center. I want to know the radius.
Oh, radius 2.
All right, do you guys agree that the radius is 2 here?
Yep.
All right, so that was one that if you just count units, it actually counts to what, 4? But you got to remember, this one's counting by halves. So 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2. It's counting by half, so the radius is 2. So Lucas, what did you have for an equation for this one?
X plus 4 parentheses squared plus y minus 3 parentheses squared equals 4.
What did you have for the second parentheses?
Y minus 3.
And
Square.
equals,
4.
what do you guys think about that?
Looks good.
Good job, Lucas.
I think that looks good. All right, any questions on number 9 at all? All right, now on number 10, let's see, Jesse, what'd you get for your center?
3-3.
Do you guys agree with 3-3?
Yeah.
Over 3, up 3. I think that looks good. All right, what about the radius? 3. All right, so if I want to type my equation, is it x plus 3 or x minus 3? X minus 3 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 9. And then I just got to make those exponents. All right, so tomorrow's assignment will have a little bit of both days. So there will be some that I give you equations with a blank graph that I'll want you to graph like we did yesterday. There will be some, like the first half, where I just give you the center and the radius and you produce the equation. And then there will be some problems where I give you the graph and you produce the equation. And do not forget, we have 3 assignments and 3 assessments left. 2 of the 3 assignments are on Wednesdays. Do not let Wednesdays make a big difference on your grade this week. So, if you have questions tomorrow, just make sure to email me. I do have people testing pretty much all morning. If you need a Google Meet for any reason, it'd have to be in the afternoon. But I will have students in here pretty much all morning testing tomorrow.